The scent of disinfectant and stale coffee clung to my uniform, like a second skin. My feet ached in worn sneakers that had seen better days, the kind of pain that started at the soles and crawled up your calves until standing felt like a punishment. I'd been on my feet for 11 hours straight, serving overpriced cocktails to people who didn't see me, who looked through me like I was part of the furniture, just another piece of the upscale restaurant's carefully curated atmosphere. I was invisible, and most days I preferred it that way. The Lumiere was the kind of place where chandeliers cost more than my yearly rent, where the carpet was so plush it swallowed sound, and where men in $1,000 suits made deals over aged whiskey. I was 23 and serving them, watching their lives unfold in fragments. The business handshakes, the anniversary dinners, the affairs conducted in shadowed corner booths. I collected their secrets like loose change, tucked them away in the back of my mind, and said nothing, because girls like me didn't speak up. Girls like me needed the job. The kitchen doors swung open with their familiar squeak, and Marco, head waiter and the closest thing I had to a friend here, caught my eye. "Table 7 needs attention," he said, his voice pitched low. There was something in his expression I couldn't read, something between warning and apology. "VIP section. Be careful, careful." The words settled in my stomach like a stone. I smoothed down my black skirt, tucked a strand of dark hair behind my ear, and lifted my chin. The VIP section was separated from the main dining room by frosted glass panels and velvet curtains. A world within a world. My heart hammered against my ribs as I pushed through the heavy fabric, and the air changed immediately, thicker somehow, weighted with expensive cologne and cigarette smoke that shouldn't have been there but was. 3 men sat at the corner table, but only one mattered. I felt him before I saw him clearly. It was like walking into a field of static electricity, every nerve ending suddenly awake and screaming danger. He sat with his back to the wall, of course he did, facing the entrance with the kind of awareness that suggested he'd catalogued every exit, every person, every potential threat before I'd even entered the room. Mid-20s, maybe 30 at most, with dark hair swept back from a face that belonged in Renaissance paintings. Sharp jawline, full lips, eyes so dark they looked black in the low light. Beautiful. Dangerously, devastatingly beautiful. He wore a charcoal suit that fit like it had been made for his body specifically, the fabric moving with him as he lifted a glass of whiskey to his lips. A gold watch caught the light at his wrist. Patek Philippe, I recognized it from serving enough wealthy men, and his hands were elegant, long-fingered, with a single silver ring on his right hand. 2 men flanked him. One was built like a wall, all shoulders and silence, with an earpiece visible at his collar. Security. The other was older, leaner, with sharp eyes that tracked my approach with predatory interest. But the man in the middle, he hadn't looked at me yet, and somehow that was more terrifying than if he had. "Good evening, gentlemen." My voice came out steadier than I felt. Professional, distant. "Can I get you anything?" The older man opened his mouth to speak, but the beautiful one raised a single finger, barely a movement, just a subtle shift, and the other man went silent immediately. The power in that tiny gesture made my breath catch. "Macallan 25, he said, his voice like smoke and velvet, dark and smooth and absolutely controlled. Neat. He still hadn't looked at me. His gaze remained fixed on the amber liquid in his glass, swirling it gently. "Of course. And for you, sir?" I turned to the security guard, who just shook his head silently. The other man ordered something I barely heard. My attention fractured, pulled back to the man in the middle like he was a black hole, and I was caught in his gravity. I turned to leave, grateful for the escape, when his voice stopped me. "Wait." I froze. The word wasn't loud. He didn't need volume to command obedience. I turned back slowly, and this time he looked at me, the world tilted. His eyes weren't black. They were the deepest brown I'd ever seen, almost amber in the low light, framed by thick lashes that would have made him look soft if not for the absolute ruthlessness in his gaze. He studied me with the intensity of someone appraising a painting, taking in every detail. My cheap uniform, my tired eyes, the small scar on my cheekbone from a childhood accident. I felt naked, exposed, seen in a way I'd never been seen before. "What's your name?" he asked. Protocol said I should give it. Instinct said I shouldn't. Ella, I whispered, hating how small my voice sounded. Ella. He repeated it like he was tasting it, testing how it felt in his mouth. A small smile curved his lips. Not warm, not exactly cold, but something calculating. You've worked here how long? 6 months. And before that? None of your business, I wanted to say. But the weight of his attention, the way his security guard had shifted slightly as if preparing to stand, I recognized power when I saw it. This wasn't a man you refused. I worked at a diner, downtown. He nodded slowly, as if this confirmed something he already knew. You're studying. It wasn't a question. Night classes, business administration. My blood went cold. How do you... Your textbook. He gestured with his glass toward my bag, barely visible where I'd tucked it under the hostess stand on my way in. From here, from this angle, there was no way he should have been able to see it, peeking out. You read during your breaks. Had he been watching me? Before tonight? The thought sent ice down my spine. I should get your drinks, I managed, backing away. Ella. My name again, and this time it sounded like ownership. Be careful walking home tonight. These streets aren't safe for girls like you. It should have sounded protective. Instead, it sounded like a threat and a promise wrapped together, impossible to separate. I fled to the bar, my hands shaking as I placed the order. Marco appeared at my elbow, his face pale. Do you know who that is? I shook my head, not trusting my voice. Dante Moretti. He said the name like a curse, like speaking it too loud might summon something terrible. They say he runs half the city. Drugs, guns, protection rackets, everything. His father was Salvatore Moretti, the old Don. Dante took over 3 years ago when his father was killed. They say he's worse than his father ever was. Colder, more ruthless. Marco gripped my arm. Whatever you do, stay away from him. But staying away wasn't an option, because I had to bring him his drink. My hands trembled as I carried the tray back through the velvet curtains. The whiskey sloshed slightly in the glass, and I prayed he wouldn't notice. When I set it before him, my fingers brushed the table, and he moved, fast as a snake, catching my wrist before I could pull away. His touch burned. Long fingers wrapped completely around my wrist. His thumb pressed against my pulse point, where my heart raced like a trapped bird. His skin was warm, and I caught his scent. Sandalwood, and something darker, almost metallic, gunpowder maybe. Danger. You're shaking, he observed, tilting his head slightly. Are you afraid of me, Ella? Yes. God, yes. No, I lied. His smile widened, showing white teeth. You should be. But he said it almost fondly, like my fear pleased him. He released my wrist slowly, deliberately, his fingers trailing across my skin in a way that felt intentional, possessive. I stumbled back, and he let me go. The rest of the service passed in a blur. I brought food I didn't remember taking orders for, refilled glasses with autopilot precision, and avoided looking at table 7 even as I felt his eyes on me constantly. Tracking me. Following me across the room like a predator watching prey. When I finally clocked out at midnight, exhaustion had settled into my bones. Marco offered to walk me to the subway, but I waved him off. I always walked alone, and tonight I needed the cold air to clear my head, to wash away the feeling of Dante Moretti's attention like oil on my skin. The November wind bit through my thin jacket as I hurried down the street, my breath fogging in the air. The Lumiere was in the financial district, all glass towers and empty sidewalks after business hours. My footsteps echoed off the buildings, too loud in the silence. I was 3 blocks away when I realized I wasn't alone. The black car was sleek, expensive, with tinted windows that reflected the streetlights like dark mirrors. It rolled beside me slowly, matching my pace, the engine a quiet purr that made my skin crawl. I walked faster. It followed. My apartment was still 6 blocks away. The subway station was 2 blocks ahead. I could run, but where? The streets were empty, and screaming would bring no one. The passenger window rolled down with an electric hum. Get in. Dante Moretti's voice cut through the night like a blade. I kept walking, my heart in my throat. I'm fine. Thank you, Ella. There was steel in his voice now, authority that expected obedience. Get in the car. I won't ask again. I don't accept rides from strangers. A pause. Then, impossibly, a laugh, low and dark and genuinely amused. Stranger? I know your name, where you work, where you study, and that you take the Red Line subway home every night. You walk alone, no boyfriend waiting, no family in the city. You're $6,000 in debt from student loans and 2 months behind on rent. Tell me, Ella, are we really strangers? Terror locked my joints. He knew everything. Everything. The car stopped. The back door opened from inside, and I saw him there in the shadows, leaning back against leather seats with that same calculating expression. There are 3 men following you, he said quietly, gesturing behind me with 2 fingers. 2 blocks back. They've been trailing you since you left the restaurant. Now you can keep walking and find out what they want, or you can get in this car where you'll be safe. I spun around. The street behind me looked empty, but in the distance, beneath a flickering streetlight, I caught movement. 3 silhouettes, walking with purpose. My blood turned to ice. When I looked back, Dante was watching me with those dark eyes, patient as death. Choose quickly, he advised. They're getting closer. I made the worst decision of my life. I got in the car. The door closed behind me with a soft click that sounded like a cell locking. The interior smelled of leather and his cologne, sandalwood wrapped around something darker, more primal. The seat was butter soft beneath me, luxurious in a way I'd never experienced. A privacy screen separated us from the driver, tinted so dark I couldn't see through it. We were alone. Dante hadn't moved, still reclined against his side of the car with one arm stretched across the back of the seat, the picture of casual power. But his eyes, those devastating dark eyes, tracked every breath I took, every nervous shift of my body. The car pulled away from the curb smoothly, and I watched through the window as the 3 men emerged from the shadows, their faces twisted with frustration as we passed them. They'd been real. He hadn't lied about that, at least. Seatbelt, Dante said softly. My fingers fumbled with the buckle, clumsy with adrenaline. The click seemed too loud in the enclosed space. I pressed myself against the door, as far from him as the car would allow, and tried to steady my breathing. Tried to think. You're safe now. His voice was quiet, almost gentle. Almost. Safe? The word tasted like ash. You had me investigated. You know everything about me. You followed me. I didn't follow you. He tilted his head, that small smile playing at his lips again. I had you protected. There's a difference. Protected from what? From men who would hurt you. He said it like it was obvious, like the distinction mattered. His gaze drifted to the window, watching the city slide past. This neighborhood isn't safe at midnight. Beautiful girls walking alone. It attracts the wrong attention. And what kind of attention are you? He looked back at me then, and something flickered in his eyes. Amusement, maybe, or appreciation for my boldness. The right kind. He leaned forward slightly, not enough to invade my space, but enough that I felt the shift in air pressure, the intensity of his focus. Tell me, Ella, do you know what those men wanted? I shook my head, mute. You. Simple. Direct. His eyes never left mine. They've been watching the restaurant for weeks. Watching you. One of them has a record. Assault. Attempted rape. The other 2 are enforcers for the Kozlov family. Russians. They're expanding into territory they don't own, taking things that don't belong to them. His voice dropped lower, took on an edge like broken glass. They thought you were unclaimed, free for the taking. The implication hung between us, heavy and suffocating. And now? I whispered. Now they know better. The possessiveness in his tone made my stomach clench. I don't belong to anyone. Don't you? He reached forward and I flinched, but he only adjusted the air vent so it wasn't blowing directly on me. The gesture was oddly considerate, at odds with everything else about him. You got in my car, Ella. You made a choice. You didn't give me a choice. There's always a choice. He settled back, that casual posture returning, but I could see the tension in his shoulders. the way his hand rested on his thigh close to where I knew men like him kept weapons. You could have run. You could have screamed. You could have taken your chances with the Kozlovs. His eyes locked on mine, but you trusted me instead. Why? I didn't have an answer. Or rather, I had too many answers and none of them made sense, because he'd looked at me like I was visible. Because his voice had promised safety even while everything else about him screamed danger. Because some instinct deeper than logic had chosen the devil I could see over the ones I couldn't. Where are you taking me? I asked instead. Home. Your home. He pulled out his phone, sleek, black, expensive, and typed something quickly. My driver knows the address. Of course he did. Of course Dante Moretti knew where I lived. Why were you at the restaurant tonight? The question escaped before I could stop it. His fingers paused on the phone screen. Business. What kind of business? The kind that doesn't concern you, but there was something in his expression. A flicker of, what? Calculation? He pocketed the phone and turned his full attention back to me. How much do you know about your manager? Vincent Calabresi? The change in subject made my head spin. Vincent. He's been good to me. He hired me when no one else would. Gave me the evening shifts so I could attend classes during the day. Generous man. Dante's voice was dry, empty of inflection. Do you know what he does with the restaurant's private room? The one past the VIP section, the door that's always locked? I'd wondered about that door. Everyone had. But asking questions at the Lumiere was a good way to lose your job. I assume it's storage. It's where he runs his operation. Counterfeit bills, mostly. Some identity theft, credit card fraud. He uses the restaurant as a front, launders money through the books. Dante watched my face as he spoke, gauging my reaction. Your tips? Half of them are probably fake bills. He's been doing it for 3 years. The world tilted again. No. That's not. Vincent Calabresi is a criminal, Ella. A small-time one, granted. But he operates in my city without permission, without paying tribute. Something cold entered Dante's eyes. That ends tonight. Horror crawled up my throat. You're going to kill him. Maybe. Depends on how reasonable he is. He said it like he was discussing the weather, casual and unconcerned. But that's not your problem anymore. He gave me a job. He used you. Dante's voice cut through my protests like a knife. You think it's coincidence he hired a girl who's desperate? Who won't ask questions? Your cover, Ella. Pretty, innocent, hardworking. Everything a legitimate restaurant would employ. If the police ever investigate, they'll see you and think the Lumiere is exactly what it claims to be. He leaned forward again, and this time he was close enough that I could see flecks of gold in his dark eyes. He doesn't care about you. He never did. I wanted to argue, to defend Vincent, but the words died in my throat. Because Dante was right. I'd always been invisible at the Lumiere. Except when customers complained, except when someone needed a scapegoat for a wrong order or a spilled drink. Vincent had been kind, but it was the kind of kindness that cost him nothing and kept me grateful, compliant, useful. What do you want from me? The question came out broken, exhausted. Dante studied me for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Nothing you're not willing to give. He reached out, slowly, giving me time to pull away, and caught a strand of my hair between his fingers, rubbing the texture like he was evaluating silk. But you need to understand something, Ella. Those men tonight, they're the first. There will be others. Working at the Lumiere has made you visible in ways you don't understand. Vincent's enemies, his creditors, the families who want his territory, they'll all see you as leverage, as a way to hurt him. His hand moved from my hair to my cheek, cupping my face with a gentleness that felt obscene coming from him. Unless you're protected, unless everyone knows you belong to someone they can't touch. My breath stopped. You. Me. His thumb brushed my cheekbone, and I hated that I didn't pull away. Hated the warmth of his touch. I can keep you safe, Ella. I can make sure no one dares to even look at you wrong. But you have to let me. And what do you get out of this arrangement? His smile returned, slow and predatory. You. The car slowed to a stop. I looked out the window and recognized my building. a crumbling pre-war walk-up in a neighborhood that was politely called transitioning. Graffiti decorated the entrance, and the streetlight overhead flickered like it was having a seizure. Dante's expression tightened as he took in my building, something like distaste crossing his features. "You live here?" It wasn't a question, but I answered anyway. "The rent is cheap. It's a death trap." He looked at me, and for the first time, I saw genuine emotion in his eyes. Anger, hot and barely contained. 5th floor, north-facing corner apartment. Fire escape access. Broken lock on the main entrance. No security cameras. Anyone could walk in. Anyone could... He cut himself off, jaw clenching. "You're not staying here." "Excuse me?" "Pack a bag. Essentials only. You're coming with me." The absurdity of it broke through my fear. "I am not going anywhere with you. You're a criminal. A killer, probably. I don't..." "Ella." My name was a whipcrack, sharp and commanding. "Listen to me very carefully. Vincent will be dead by morning. When his associates realize what happened, they'll come looking for information. They'll start with the staff. They'll start with you." He caught my chin, forcing me to meet his eyes. "They will hurt you. They will make you talk even though you have nothing to tell them. And when they're done, they'll kill you just to send a message." Tears burned behind my eyes. "This isn't happening." "It is." His voice softened fractionally. "I'm sorry you got caught in this. I'm sorry Vincent used you. But the situation is what it is, and you have 2 options. Come with me and live, or go upstairs to your apartment and wait for them to find you." His thumb stroked my jaw, almost tender. "Choose life, Ella. Choose me." The worst part was that he was right. I could feel the truth of it in my bones. I'd been caught in something larger than myself, and there was no walking away unscathed. Going upstairs meant dying. Slowly, painfully, at the hands of men whose faces I'd never even seen. But going with Dante Moretti meant a different kind of death. A slower one, maybe. A gilded cage instead of a grave. "How do I know you won't hurt me?" I whispered. Something shifted in his expression, surprise perhaps that I'd ask. "Because you're mine now," he said simply, like it explained everything, "and I protect what's mine." The door beside me opened, and I flinched. The security guard from the restaurant stood there, his face impassive, one hand extended to help me out. Behind him, I could see a second black car, another suited man standing beside it. How many people did Dante have watching? Dante leaned past me, close enough that his breath stirred my hair. 5 minutes, Ella. Pack a bag. My men will escort you. His lips brushed my ear, sending electricity down my spine. And Ella? Don't try to run. You wouldn't make it 3 blocks. The apartment looked different through the eyes of Dante's security guards. Smaller, more pathetic. They stood by the door like sentinels, silent and unmoving, while I grabbed a duffel bag from the closet with shaking hands. 5 minutes. He'd given me 5 minutes to pack up my life. What did you bring when a Mafia boss decided you belonged to him? I threw in clothes without looking. Jeans, sweaters, underwear. My toiletries from the bathroom. The textbook from my bag, though studying seemed like a luxury from another lifetime. My fingers hovered over the framed photo on my nightstand, me and my grandmother, taken 2 years before she died. Before I'd come to this city alone with nothing but her life insurance money and desperate hope for something better. Time, one of the guards said, his voice flat. I grabbed the photo and shoved it in the bag. As I zipped it closed, I caught sight of myself in the mirror. Pale, terrified, with dark circles under my eyes and my hair falling from its ponytail. I looked like a victim. I looked like prey. Maybe that's exactly what I was. The guards flanked me down the stairs, and I wondered if they were protecting me or making sure I didn't bolt. Probably both. The night air hit my face like a slap as we emerged, and there was Dante, leaning against his car with a phone pressed to his ear. He was speaking rapid Italian, his voice low and sharp. When he saw me, he ended the call without a goodbye and slipped the phone into his jacket. His eyes traveled over me, assessing. Is that everything? Everything that matters. My voice sounded hollow. He took the bag from my shoulder before I could protest. His fingers brushing mine, the touch sent unwanted heat through me. Some traitorous part of my body responding to his proximity despite my mind screaming danger. He handed the bag to one of the guards and opened the car door himself this time. Waiting, I climbed in because what choice did I have? He followed, settling beside me closer than before. Close enough that I could feel the warmth radiating from his body, smell that intoxicating scent of sandalwood and gunpowder. The car pulled away from my building, from my life, and I watched it disappear through the rear window. 5 months of rent paid in advance. Gone. My security deposit, my few pieces of furniture from thrift stores, the coffee maker that only worked if you hit it just right, all abandoned. I need to call my landlord, I said, voice distant. Give notice, I'll lose my deposit if, already handled. Dante was typing on his phone again. His attention split. You'll receive your full deposit plus last month's rent by tomorrow. Consider it compensation for the inconvenience. Inconvenience. The word tasted bitter. Is that what kidnapping is called now? His fingers stilled on the screen. He looked at me, really looked at me, and something dangerous flickered in his expression. I haven't kidnapped you, Ella. You're free to leave whenever you want. He leaned closer, invading my space deliberately. But I wonder how far you'd get, how long you'd last. His hand came up, tucking a strand of hair behind my ear in a gesture that should have been sweet, but felt like ownership. Hours? Maybe a day if you're smart about it? You're trying to scare me. I'm trying to save you. He pulled back, and I could breathe again. There's a difference. We drove through the city in silence, leaving behind the familiar neighborhoods for areas I'd only seen in magazines. The buildings grew taller, cleaner, separated by gates and doormen. Old money and new power, the kind of wealth that whispered instead of shouted. The car finally pulled up to a high-rise that stretched toward the sky like a glass needle, all modern architecture and understated luxury. Home, Dante said simply. A valet appeared. No, not a valet. Another security guard in an expensive suit, opening doors and taking bags with military efficiency. The lobby was marble and gold, with modern art on the walls that probably cost more than my entire education. A concierge nodded respectfully as we passed, her eyes carefully not looking at me too closely, not asking questions. They knew who Dante was, what he was, and they knew better than to see anything. The elevator required a key card to access the penthouse floors. Dante swiped his, pressed PH, and we shot upward so fast my stomach dropped. The silence between us felt alive, pulsing with unspoken things. I could feel his eyes on me, studying my reflection in the polished elevator doors. You're afraid, he observed. But not of me. Not really. What are you afraid of, Ella? The truth slipped out before I could stop it. Myself. What I might become here. His reflection smiled. Smart girl. The elevator opened directly into his apartment. Because of course it did. Men like Dante didn't have hallways or neighbors. The space was massive. Open concept with floor-to-ceiling windows that showcased the city like a kingdom laid out below. Modern furniture in blacks and grays. Expensive but cold. Abstract art that probably had meaning I couldn't decipher. Everything was immaculate, unlived in, like a hotel suite rather than a home. Guest room is down that hall, second door. Dante shrugged off his jacket, draping it over a chair. His shirt was crisp white, tailored perfectly to his frame. He rolled up his sleeves as he walked to the bar, exposing forearms corded with muscle and, I noticed with a chill, several thin scars. Or you can take the master. I have other places to sleep. Guest room is fine. I didn't want to think about his bedroom, about the intimacy implied in that offer. He poured 2 glasses of whiskey, the expensive kind, the kind I'd served him earlier that felt like years ago. He crossed to me, holding one out. Drink. You're shaking. I hadn't realized I was. I took the glass, our fingers brushing again, and that same electric current ran through me. I sipped, and the whiskey burned down my throat, warming my chest. It was smooth, complex, nothing like the cheap vodka I occasionally splurged on. What happens now? I asked. Dante leaned against the window, the city lights behind him creating a halo effect that should have been angelic, but only made him look more dangerous. Now you rest. Tomorrow we'll discuss arrangements, new identity documents, a bank account, security protocols. You're serious about this, about keeping me here. Did you think I wasn't? He swirled his whiskey, watching me over the rim. I don't make idle promises, Ella. When I say you're under my protection, I mean it. No one will touch you. No one will even think about touching you. His voice dropped, took on that possessive edge that made my skin prickle. You're mine now. I'm not a possession. No. He pushed off from the window, moving toward me with predatory grace. You're something far more valuable. You're a weakness. My weakness. He stopped inches away, close enough that I had to tilt my head back to maintain eye contact. And I protect my weaknesses by keeping them close, by making sure everyone knows the price of harming them is death. I didn't ask for this. No. His hand came up, fingers trailing down my cheek with devastating gentleness. You didn't. But here we are anyway. Fate, maybe, or just bad luck. His thumb traced my lower lip, and I couldn't breathe, couldn't move. But I promise you this, no one will hurt you while you're mine. Not Vincent's people, not the Kozlovs, not anyone. You'll have everything you need. Safety, security, comfort. His eyes burned into mine. All you have to do is stay. And if I want to leave, something dark crossed his expression. Then I'll let you go. But you won't survive a week. He leaned closer, his breath warm against my face. Better the devil you know, Ella. Better the cage that keeps you alive than freedom that gets you killed. My phone buzzed in my pocket, making us both jump. Dante stepped back, and I fumbled for it with trembling hands. Marco's name flashed on the screen. I looked up at Dante, silently asking permission. He nodded once. Hello? Ella! Thank God. Marco's voice was panicked, high-pitched. Where are you? Are you safe? The restaurant. Something happened. The police are here, and Vincent. My heart stopped. What about Vincent? Static, muffled voices. Then Marco again, quieter now. He's dead, Ella. They found him in his office, shot twice in the head. The police are questioning everyone. They want to talk to you too. Where are you? Did you go home? I looked at Dante. He watched me with those dark eyes, expression unreadable, and I understood. This was the point of no return. If I told Marco where I was, if I went to the police, I became a witness, a liability. Dante would have to eliminate that liability. Or I could lie. I could step fully into this new reality, this dangerous world where a beautiful monster kept me in a gilded cage. I'm at a friend's place, I heard myself say. I wasn't feeling well, so I left early. I didn't see anything. The police will still want to talk to you. They're talking to everyone who worked tonight. I'll call them tomorrow, I promise. My eyes never left Dante's. Marco, be careful, okay? Don't tell them anything you don't have to. I won't. You be careful too, Ella. Something feels wrong about all this. He had no idea. I ended the call, and the silence stretched between us like taffy. Dante took the phone from my hand gently, turning it over in his palm. Smart girl, he murmured. Lying to the police already. Maybe you're more suited to this life than you think. I'm not. But I wasn't sure anymore. He set my phone on the counter and picked up his own, firing off a text. I'll have someone handle the police. You were home sick tonight. Never went to work. Several people will confirm it. Neighbors, a delivery driver, whoever needs to see you there. He looked up. Your phone will ping off the towers near your apartment. Your credit card will show a charge at a pharmacy nearby. You have an alibi, Ella. You're clean. You've done this before. It wasn't a question. Many times. No shame, no hesitation. He was showing me who he was, what he was capable of, and daring me to run. This is my world. Murder, lies, manipulation. It's all just Tuesday for me. He stepped closer again, and I should have backed away, but I didn't. But you? You're something different. Something pure that doesn't belong here. His hand cupped my face, thumb stroking my cheekbone. I should let you go. Send you away somewhere safe, but I won't. Why not? Because I'm a selfish bastard. His other hand found my waist, pulling me closer. Because from the moment I saw you tonight, carrying that tray with your hands shaking, trying so hard to be invisible, I wanted you. Not for a night, not for a transaction. I wanted to own you, protect you, keep you locked away where nothing could touch you. His forehead pressed against mine. You're mine, Ella. Mine to protect, mine to keep, mine to... You don't even know me. I know enough. His lips hovered over mine, so close I could taste the whiskey on his breath. I know you're stubborn, brave despite being terrified. I know you work yourself to exhaustion trying to build something better. I know you've been invisible your whole life. And I'm the first person who truly saw you. His grip tightened, and I know that scares you more than anything. He was right. God help me, he was right. The kiss, when it came, wasn't gentle. It was possession, claim, branding. His mouth moved over mine with devastating skill, one hand fisting in my hair while the other crushed me against him. I should have fought, should have pushed him away. Instead, I kissed him back, drowning in sandalwood and danger, in the heat of him, in the terrible certainty that I'd just crossed a line I could never uncross. When he pulled back, we were both breathing hard. His eyes were molten, dark with want, and I knew I was looking at a man who always took what he wanted, and he wanted me. Guest room, he said roughly. Go, now, before I change my mind about being a gentleman. I fled down the hall, my lips still burning from his kiss, his taste on my tongue like sin. I didn't sleep. How could I, knowing a killer was down the hall, knowing Vincent was dead because of the man who'd kissed me like he owned my soul? The guest room was larger than my entire apartment had been, decorated in soft creams and grays, with a bed so comfortable it felt obscene. Egyptian cotton sheets, down pillows that cradled my head. Luxury I'd never experienced. A gilded cage, just like he'd promised. Around 3 a.m, I heard voices. Low, tense, speaking rapid Italian through the walls. Dante's voice, sharp with command. Another man responding, apologetic or defensive, I couldn't tell which. Then silence, and the sound of a door closing. I wondered if he ever slept, or if men like him survived on power and violence alone. When dawn finally crept through the floor-to-ceiling windows, painting the room in shades of rose and gold, I gave up pretending. I showered in the ensuite bathroom. Marble and chrome, water pressure that felt like a massage, and dressed in jeans and a sweater from my hastily packed bag. My reflection in the mirror showed a stranger. Same face, same body, but different eyes. Haunted, marked, changed. The apartment was silent when I emerged. No sign of Dante, though his presence lingered like smoke. A woman I didn't recognize stood in the kitchen. 50s, elegant, with silver-streaked hair pulled into a neat bun. She looked up when I entered, her expression professionally neutral. Good morning, Miss Ella. I'm Maria, Mr. Moretti's housekeeper. Her accent was slight, Italian mixed with years in America. He asked me to prepare breakfast. What would you like? The domesticity of it was surreal. Just... coffee is fine. Thank you. She frowned slightly, disapproval crossing her features. You need to eat. Mr. Moretti was very specific. You're to be well fed, properly cared for. She moved with efficient grace, pulling ingredients from the refrigerator. I'll make eggs. Scrambled okay? I nodded, too overwhelmed to argue. I sat at the breakfast bar, accepting the coffee she poured, rich, dark Italian roast that made the diner coffee I was used to taste like dishwater. Maria worked in comfortable silence, and I watched her, wondering how much she knew, if she understood what Dante really was. How long have you worked for him? I asked quietly. 15 years, since he was a boy. Something softened in her expression. I worked for his father first, God rest his soul. Dante was different then, younger, less burdened. She set a plate before me, perfect scrambled eggs, toast, fresh fruit arranged artfully. Eat. You're too thin. The food was incredible, but it stuck in my throat. Where is he? Business. He left at 5 this morning. She poured her own coffee, leaning against the counter. He'll be back this afternoon. He left instructions for you. There's a car and driver at your disposal. Security detail. You're not to leave the building without them. Prison, then. A beautiful one, but prison nonetheless. And if I want to leave anyway, Maria's eyes met mine, kind, but firm. Then you'll be stopped. For your own protection, you understand. She sipped her coffee. Mr. Moretti doesn't do things halfway. When he protects someone, he commits completely. It can feel suffocating. But it comes from care in his way. Care? The word tasted bitter. He murdered my boss last night. Vincent Calabresi was a thief and a coward who put innocent people at risk. No judgment in her tone, just facts. Dante gave him chances, many chances. He chose poorly. She set down her cup. This life isn't easy to understand from the outside. But Dante, he has rules. He doesn't harm innocents. He protects his people fiercely. And now, for whatever reason, you're one of his people. I didn't ask to be. No one ever does. She smiled sadly. But here you are. So you can fight it and be miserable, or you can accept it and find what peace you can. The choice is yours. After Maria left, promising to return in the evening with dinner, I explored the apartment like a prisoner learning her cell. 3 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms, an office I didn't dare enter, a living space bigger than most houses. Art on every wall, books on shelves that looked unread. Everything expensive and impersonal. The only space that felt lived in was a room at the end of the hall. I shouldn't have opened that door, but curiosity killed the cat, and I'd never been good at following rules. It was his bedroom. Massive bed with black silk sheets, half made like he'd left in a hurry. The scent of him hung heavy here, sandalwood, and something uniquely Dante. But what caught my attention was the wall across from the bed. Photographs, dozens of them, pinned to a massive board like a detective's case file. I stepped closer, my heart hammering. They were all of me. Walking to work, leaving class, sitting in a coffee shop with my textbook, standing at the bus stop. Some were from weeks ago, others more recent. All taken without my knowledge, capturing me in moments I'd thought were private. The most recent was from last night. Me leaving the restaurant, unaware of the danger trailing behind me. He'd been watching me. Not just last night. For weeks. Maybe longer. I told you. His voice came from behind me, making me jump. You were never invisible. Not to me. I spun around. Dante leaned against the doorframe, still in his suit from the morning, looking tired, but dangerous. His eyes tracked my expression, cataloging my fear, my anger, my confusion. You stalked me. My voice shook. I observed you. He pushed off the frame, moving into the room with that predatory grace. There's a difference. No, there isn't. I backed away, hitting the wall of photographs. This is insane. You're insane. Perhaps. He stopped a few feet away, giving me space. But I'm also the reason you're alive. Those men who followed you last night, they'd been planning it for 2 weeks. I knew because I was also watching. I had to decide. Intervene and reveal my interest, or let nature take its course. His jaw tightened. I couldn't let them touch you. Why? Why me? He was silent for a long moment, something working behind his eyes. You want the truth? Yes. 3 months ago, I came to the Lumiere for a meeting with Vincent. You served our table. He moved closer, and I couldn't retreat further. You smiled at me. Just once, this small, tired smile when you set down my drink. And you said, I hope your evening gets better than your expression suggests. Then you walked away before I could respond. I remembered. God, I remembered. He'd looked so severe, so angry, and the words had slipped out before I could stop them. I'd been terrified he'd complain, get me fired. No one talks to me like that, Dante continued, his voice soft. No one sees me as anything but what I am. A weapon, a monster, something to fear. But you? You saw a man having a bad day and tried to make it better. His hand came up, fingers ghosting over my cheek. I couldn't stop thinking about you. That smile, that kindness. I started coming back, watching you work, learning everything about you. And the more I learned, the more I wanted... He cut himself off, jaw clenching. Wanted what? To keep you. Raw honesty. devastating in its simplicity, to lock you away where the world couldn't touch you, couldn't break that light inside you, to own every smile, every laugh, every moment. His thumb brushed my lips. I know it's wrong. I know I'm a monster for wanting it. But I stopped pretending to be anything else a long time ago. I should have been terrified. Should have seen him for the obsessive, dangerous man he was. But looking into his eyes, I saw something else. Loneliness. A desperate, aching loneliness that mirrored my own. We were both alone in this city, both wearing masks, both invisible in our own ways. "You can't keep me here forever," I whispered. "No," he agreed, "but I can keep you safe. I can give you everything you need, school, a future, protection. All I ask in return is that you stay, that you let me—" He struggled for words. "Let me care for you, in whatever broken way I'm capable of. This isn't care. This is possession. For men like me, they're the same thing." He leaned in, forehead touching mine. "I won't apologize for what I am, Ella. But I will protect you with everything I have. No one will hurt you. No one will even look at you wrong." His hands framed my face. "You're mine. Say it. I'm not—" "Say it." Command, not request. His eyes burned into mine, dark and fathomless. And God help me, I did. "I'm yours." The kiss was different this time, slower, deeper, like he was trying to memorize the taste of me. His hands were gentle despite their strength, holding me like something precious, breakable. When he pulled back, something had shifted in his expression. Satisfaction, possession, and underneath it all, that terrible loneliness finding its match. "Good girl," he murmured against my lips. "Now come. We have things to discuss." He led me to his office, and the transition from lover to businessman was seamless. He gestured to a chair across from his desk while he pulled out files, documents, a new phone still in its box. "Your new identity," he said, sliding papers toward me. "Ella Ross, student at the university, clean background. I've paid your tuition through graduation. You'll continue your classes. I won't take that from you, but you'll have security with you at all times." He opened a laptop, typed rapidly. "Bank account in your name. There's 50,000 in there now. More if you need it." "I can't accept—" "You can, and you will." His tone brooked no argument. "You work for me now. Call it administrative assistant. Legitimate employment, legitimate income. The IRS will be satisfied, and you'll have financial independence." He pulled out the phone. "New number. Only certain people have it. Me, Maria, your security team. Your old phone will be destroyed. What about my friends? Marco?" Something cold entered his expression. "Marco Vitale is being questioned about Vincent's death. He's not your concern anymore. He's my friend. He's a witness to a crime scene. Associating with him puts you at risk." Dante's voice was flat, final. "You don't exist to your old life anymore, Ella. That girl is gone. This is who you are now." The finality of it hit me like a fist. "You're erasing me. I'm protecting you. There's a difference." He stood, moving around the desk. "I know this is hard. I know you didn't choose this, but the choice was made the moment Vincent used you, the moment the Kozlovs marked you. I'm just the one who got to you first." He pulled me to my feet, hands firm on my shoulders. "And I will keep you safe. That's not a threat, Ella. It's a promise." A knock at the door interrupted us. Dante's expression shifted instantly, alert, focused. "Enter." The security guard from last night stepped in, his face grave. "Boss, we have a problem. The Kozlovs know she's here. They're demanding a meeting." Dante's hands tightened on my shoulders, his body going rigid with barely contained violence. When he spoke, his voice was ice. "Tell them no. They're threatening retaliation. They say the girl was their target first, that you violated—" "I don't care what they say." Dante's voice cut like a blade. "Ella is under my protection. That makes her untouchable. If Sergei Kozlov has a problem with that, he can take it up with me personally." The guard shifted uncomfortably. "They've requested a sit-down, neutral ground. They want to negotiate." "Negotiate." Dante's laugh was dark, humorless. "They want to see her, confirm she's real, that she's worth the war they're considering." He looked down at me, his expression softening fractionally. They want to test my resolve. Then don't go, I said. Tell them. If I refuse, they'll see it as weakness. They'll push harder, take more risks. His hand cupped my face. I have to go. But you're staying here, behind locked doors with armed security. No one gets in, no one. Dante, look at me. I did. His eyes were fierce, burning with intensity. Look at me. Not him, not them, not anyone else. I'm the one who keeps you safe now. I'm the one you trust. Do you understand? I nodded, unable to speak past the fear in my throat. Say it, he demanded. Say you trust me. I trust you. The lie tasted like truth. Dante left with 5 armed men, and the silence he left behind felt suffocating. Maria returned within the hour, her face carefully neutral as she bustled around the apartment, but I caught her glancing at her phone repeatedly, tension in the set of her shoulders. She knew something was wrong. We all did. I tried to focus on my textbook. Microeconomics, supply and demand curves that seemed absurdly irrelevant now, but the words blurred. Every sound made me jump. The elevator ding. Footsteps in the hallway that weren't headed here. The wind rattling the windows 40 stories up. He'll be fine, Maria said quietly, setting tea beside me. Dante always is. He's his father's son. Smart, careful, ruthless when necessary. What if they want to kill him? Then they'll fail. They always do. She said it with such certainty, such bone-deep faith. Drink your tea. You need to stay calm. But calm was impossible when the man who'd become my entire world in 24 hours was walking into danger because of me. Because he'd claimed me, protected me, made me his weakness. 3 hours crawled by like years. Maria made dinner I couldn't eat. The sun set over the city, painting the sky in violent shades of orange and red, beautiful and terrible, like everything in Dante's world. When the elevator finally dinged, I shot to my feet, heart hammering. Maria's hand on my arm stopped me from running to the door. Wait, she murmured. Let them clear the apartment first. Security swept through like a tide. 6 men, thorough and efficient, checking every room, every window. Then, finally, Dante appeared. He looked like a storm-given human form. His suit jacket was gone, his white shirt stained with something dark at the collar. His knuckles were split, bleeding. But his eyes, those devastating dark eyes, found me immediately, and something in them made my breath catch. Possession. Pure, absolute possession. Everyone out, he said quietly. His men disappeared like smoke. Maria squeezed my arm once, then followed, the door clicking shut behind her with terrible finality. We stood across the room from each other, the air between us crackling with unspoken things. Are you hurt? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. No. He moved toward me, slow and deliberate. The blood isn't mine. I should have been horrified, should have flinched away. Instead, I closed the distance between us, reaching for his damaged hands. He let me take them, let me examine the split skin across his knuckles. What happened? Sergei Kozlov thought he could negotiate for you. Thought he could offer me money, territory, anything I wanted in exchange for... His jaw clenched so hard I heard teeth grinding. I showed him what happens when someone tries to take what's mine. Dante, he's alive. Barely. His men carried him out. His hands turned, capturing mine, pulling me closer. But he understands now. They all do. You're untouchable. Sacred. Anyone who looks at you wrong, who even thinks about touching you, something feral crossed his expression. I'll burn their world down. The violence in his voice should have terrified me. Instead, it sent heat through my veins, made something dark and hungry unfurl in my chest. When had I become this person? When had his obsession started to feel like safety instead of danger? You started a war for me, I whispered. No. He pulled me against him, one hand fisting in my hair. I ended one. The Kozlovs know now. You're mine. Completely, irrevocably mine. They won't touch you. No one will. His forehead pressed to mine. Do you understand what that means, Ella? What you mean to me? Tell me. You're the first thing I think about when I wake up, and the last thing before I sleep. You're the reason I came home tonight instead of finishing what I started. He struggled, this man who commanded empires with words. You're everything. My weakness and my strength, the one pure thing in my fucked up world that I refuse to let go of. Tears burned my eyes. I didn't want this. I didn't want to feel this way about you, I know. His lips brushed my forehead, achingly gentle. But you do. I see it in the way you look at me, the way you say my name. You're as trapped as I am. He was right. God, he was right. Somewhere between the terror and the possession, between the violence and the protection, I'd fallen into this twisted thing between us. Not love. Not yet. Maybe never. But something darker. More consuming. An addiction to the way he looked at me like I was the only thing that mattered. An obsession with being seen after a lifetime of invisibility. I'd become his willing prisoner. I want to go back to school, I said against his chest. I want to finish my degree. You will, I promised. I want to see Marco. Just once. To say goodbye properly. He tensed. No, Dante. No, he pulled back, his expression hardening. Marco is part of the investigation. Seeing you puts both of you at risk. I won't allow it. The cage door's closing. I pushed against his chest. You can't control everything. Watch me. But then his expression shifted, calculation entering his eyes. However, I can arrange a phone call. Monitored. Brief, but you can tell him you're safe, that you've left the city. At my look, he continued. It's a compromise, Ella. More than most people would get from me. Why? Why give me even that? Because you asked. Simple. Devastating. Because making you happy makes this easier. And because... He cupped my face, thumbs stroking my cheekbones, because I'm trying to be less of a monster for you. Even though I'll never be good. The kiss was inevitable, necessary as breathing. I surrendered to it, to him, letting him consume me the way he'd been consuming me since that first moment in the restaurant. His hands were possessive, claiming, mapping every curve like he was memorizing me. When he lifted me, I wrapped my legs around his waist, and he carried me down the hall to his bedroom. To our bedroom now, I realized. The photographs were gone from the wall. Instead, there was a new painting, abstract, beautiful, in shades of gold and shadow. He'd removed his obsession, replaced it with something almost normal. For me, stay, he murmured against my lips as he lowered me to the silk sheets. Not because I'm forcing you, not because you're afraid. Stay because you want this. Want me? I do. The truth, finally. God help me, I do. What followed was fire and possession, gentle and violent in turns. He worshipped my body like it was sacred, marked my skin with kisses and bruises that proclaimed ownership. And I gave as good as I got. Nails raking down his back, teeth on his shoulder, claiming him the way he claimed me. Two broken, lonely people finding solace in each other's darkness. When it was over, we lay tangled in sheets that smelled like sex and sandalwood, his body wrapped around mine protectively. His fingers traced lazy patterns on my skin, and for the first time since this nightmare began, I felt peace. I spoke to the university, he said quietly. You're officially enrolled full-time, tuition paid. I've arranged for you to attend classes with security. They'll be discreet, but present. His hand found mine, intertwining our fingers. And I've set up a trust fund in your name. $2 million. If anything happens to me, you'll be taken care of. I turned in his arms, studying his face. Nothing's going to happen to you. In this life, anything can happen. His expression was solemn. I have enemies, Ella. Lots of them. And now that they know about you, you're a target. The best protected target in the city. But still. His thumb stroked my hand. I need to know you'll be okay, that you'll survive even if I don't. Don't talk like that. I'm a realist. But he pulled me closer, burying his face in my hair. But for you, I'll try to be more careful. I'll come home every night. I'll try to be the man you deserve instead of the monster I am. You're not a monster. I am. But maybe... His lips brushed my temple. Maybe with you, I can be something more. Something better. We fell asleep like that. Wrapped in each other, the city lights painting patterns on the walls. And for the first time in my life, I felt like I belonged somewhere. Not in this apartment, not in this life, but in his arms, in the fierce, possessive, terrifying love of a man who would burn the world for me. 3 months later, the campus was beautiful in early spring, trees budding with new life. I walked across the quad with my textbooks, security trailing discreetly behind. 2 men in casual clothes, who could have been students if not for their watchful eyes and the weapons hidden under their jackets. I'd learned not to notice them, to pretend I was just another college student living a normal life. Except nothing about my life was normal anymore. I attended classes, studied in the library, even made a few carefully vetted friends. Dante had been true to his word. I was finishing my degree, building a future. But every evening, I returned to the penthouse, to him, to the man who owned me body and soul. Our relationship had evolved into something strange and beautiful and twisted. He was still possessive, still jealous, still kept me under constant surveillance. But he'd softened in small ways, learned to ask instead of command, to negotiate instead of control. And I'd learned to read his moods, to soothe the violence before it erupted, to be his peace in a world of chaos. I loved him. God help me. I loved the monster and the man, the violence and the tenderness, all of it. My phone buzzed, his name on the screen as it was dozens of times a day. I smiled despite myself. How was class? Good. Professor Chen praised my paper. Of course he did. You're brilliant. I'll be home by 6. Wear the blue dress. The one you bought me? The one I'm going to take off you. See you soon, beautiful. I slipped the phone back into my pocket, warmth flooding my chest. Ahead, I saw Maria waiting by the car. Dante had insisted she accompany me to classes, a familiar face among the security. She waved, smiling, and I headed toward her. Good day? She asked as I climbed into the back seat. Very good. I settled against the leather, watching the campus disappear behind tinted windows. Is he really going to be home by 6? He promised. Didn't he? Maria's smile was knowing. He doesn't break promises, not to you. The drive through the city felt different now. These streets were mine, part of a life I'd never imagined. We pulled up to the high-rise, and I took the elevator up with security flanking me, their presence as natural as breathing now. The apartment smelled like roses, a massive bouquet on the entry table, no card needed. I knew who they were from. Dante filled the space with flowers weekly, small gestures of affection from a man who expressed love through protection and possession. I showered, changed into the blue dress. Silk, designer, fitted perfectly to my body. Applied makeup, styled my hair, made myself beautiful for the man who already thought I was perfection. At exactly 6, I heard the elevator. My heart quickened the way it always did, anticipation and desire mixing with something deeper. The door opened, and there he was, my beautiful monster, my protector, my obsession. Dante's eyes found me immediately, darkening with want. He crossed the space in 3 strides, pulling me into his arms, kissing me like he'd been gone weeks instead of hours. Missed you, he murmured against my lips. You saw me this morning. Doesn't matter. I always miss you. His hands roamed over the silk, possessive and sure. How was your day? Tell me everything. We settled on the couch, my body tucked against his, and I told him about lectures and papers and the mundane details of student life. He listened like it was the most important thing in the world, his attention absolute, one hand stroking my hair in a gesture that had become habit. This was my life now. Not the life I'd planned, not the life I'd wanted, but somehow, impossibly, it was enough. I love you, I said quietly, the words easier now than they'd been the first time I'd spoken them. His hand stilled in my hair. Then he shifted, turning me to face him, those dark eyes burning into mine with devastating intensity. I love you more than anything in this world, more than power, more than life. His hand cupped my face. You're mine, Ella, forever. Say it. I'm yours. Truth, finally. Complete and absolute, forever. He kissed me then, deep and claiming, and I surrendered to it, to him. To this twisted, beautiful thing we'd built from violence and obsession and desperate loneliness. We were broken people who'd found each other in the darkness, and together we'd forged something that might not be love in the traditional sense, but it was ours, and that was enough. The city stretched out below us, 40 stories of distance between us and the world. In this space, we were safe, protected. His empire of shadows kept the monsters at bay, and I was the light he came home to every night. The weakness he protected with everything he had. The one pure thing in his darkness. I'd stopped being invisible. I'd found someone who saw me, really saw me, and refused to let me go. And I'd discovered that sometimes the cage was where you wanted to be. Sometimes the monster was the one who kept you safe. Sometimes possession felt like love. We were toxic and beautiful and completely, irrevocably intertwined, and I wouldn't change a single thing. This was my life now, my choice, my monster, my love, mine.